All right. I think we're live. Welcome to another episode of Starting 101. And today, I would say the reason to stick around for this one is if you have a business or if you have a business idea that you're running, I've kind of taken these things and I'm documenting my step of taking all the products that I've made and all the products that I'm running right now and actually like building a business around it. And this is starting 101, and the reason it's called starting 101 is because I'm starting everything from scratch and I'm documenting every step of the way until I do 101 of these things. um Welcome. Today, the title of today's talk is: a product idea is not a business idea, and hope is not a business plan. So the reason I wanted to talk about this one is like this is something that it's kind of like close to my heart a little bit. um where I'm at right now, I've kind of been going through the process and showing you guys how I'm like thinking about it now. I think maybe in the future I'll probably end up doing one where it's like start a business in a week or something like that. But the first one, I really wanted to give myself time to think through all these pieces and see like, you know, what is it going to be and what do I really want it to be, because I really wanted to figure that out. And I think that anybody, like a lot of people, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people about productivity and a lot of conversations around business. And the reason is because I'm really always about how do you get stuff done. That's really it for me. It's like how do you get things done? There isn't really a lot more to it than that. Is anything that you want to make happen in the world, go make it happen. Now the thing is, excuse me, the thing is that there are a lot of people that are makers and they make stuff. And I think that I have a soft spot for people that try to make stuff, but they can't actually like produce it. And, but I think that that's like a level one problem. The thing that happens is when people actually like, they know they can make something and they're able to make that thing and they think they've arrived as far as like because they've made a product or because they've like defined the service that they've defined the business. And so, I fell into this trap myself, which is why I'm doing this entire experiment is I made stuff and I made stuff that, was pretty helpful to, it's like wrote a book and it's like that's an effort, that's an endeavor. But it's like without having a way to sell that book, without having a way to market that book, without having the finances right around that book, then no business there. It's just I made something. It was nice. And, the maybe the 200 people that bought a copy enjoyed it. And every review that I got was positive. But guess what? Doesn't make it a business. Does not make it a business. And so today, like, that's the thing that I wanted to talk about because I'm going to share my entire business plan as to like how I'm like kicking off everything. And my thing is, I like to test. Like, I like to be confident in because of results. I don't like to be confident because I hope something is going to turn out some kind of way. And when you're really looking at this whole business as a system, then it means that every component piece should be testable. And so that's what I'm kind of like, that's the whole plan that I've been putting together has been designed around how do you test every component and then how do you build those components on top of each other so that you have like subsystems and things that level up. So today I'm pretty much sharing my entire business plan. So here's my entire business plan in a nutshell. And like I do in every episode, I recap. My framework that I use for thinking about a business plan is that there's five parts to every single business. And in order for you to be able to say that you have a business, you have to be able to define all five of those parts and show that those five parts work in concert in order to make enough money to sustain the business. That's pretty much it. So essentially, here is my business plan in a nutshell. And anyone can use this because the value creation is going to be the difference. I think this model is being used by a lot of people already. Um, I think a lot of people don't really think about it that deeply. Now, the reason that I decided to share this today was twofold. I had two conversations this weekend, and it got me to realize that a lot of people get into business thinking about it from either a very product centric standpoint or a sales centric standpoint. But basically, they get into business only thinking about one component of it, right? So if you kind of like think about the Silicon Valley startups that don't have a product and don't really have like customers, but they've managed to like raise angel funding for their startup. Well, guess what? Those people only thought about it from a finance standpoint, so they got the money figured out. If you get someone that's like, say, like an independent sales rep for a company, right? Then that person is basically just the sales component of somebody else's business. So they got the sales figured out. If you get someone that's a maker and they made something, then they're going to be talking about it like, oh, I wrote this book or I built this software, and they're thinking about it purely from a product standpoint, which means that's all they have. Now, certain products have the delivery built in, and certain products don't have the delivery built in. So it's like you have, I think my sister used to make these amazing all natural like perfume sprays that they were amazing. But that was the product. There was no delivery in that. There was no marketing in that or anything. This is back in the day. Now she's like her business is doing well and she's moved on to bigger and better things. But um yeah, it's like you have to look at all these pieces. And I think that I'm trying to think if there's actually people that are only in the value delivery standpoint. Yeah, I guess if you work for Uber Eats, then you are the value delivery component of somebody else's business or DoorDash or whatever it is. But it's like you don't really have a business yourself. And I think this is something that people really have to understand, because if you're going to step into anything, even if you're stepping in as a subcomponent of somebody else's business, then you have to look at it and say, okay, how do I work all these other pieces in order to make sure that I have a system that's producing at a level that's not just me getting the short end of the stick in some cases. So, that's the reason. I had a few conversations with people that were really focused on the product side or they were focused on the sales side, but really did not have that idea of like a full-fledged business plan set up. So what am I doing? The thing is, my value, the biggest part of my value is in the fact that I know this stuff. I've studied this stuff a lot. And so the benefit to somebody that's starting a business or whatever, as far as like how do you get things done quickly and how do you get things done effectively and efficiently, is that essentially the last 10 years of books that I've been reading and projects that I've been running, every mistake that I've made, I've found a workaround. And so that experience is then squeezed into a fraction of the time. And you can then take that, and instead of like tripping and falling for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you can basically like take all of my mistakes and all of my pain, sit right on top of it and kick off and start. So that's the core of the value. It's knowledge base, which means any product that I give can be one moment. Any product that I give can be service, it can be information, but it has to be really catering on the knowledge. Or if I do make something, then it has to be leveraging that in order to get results for somebody else, so that by you picking up this product, it does away, based on these experiences, it's able to do away with some of these pains or some of these gaps. And that's really it. So my plan as far as like value creation is taking all these processes and systems and algorithms that I have that prove effective in getting results and getting you to your from idea to done faster, and putting them in either systems, courses, something you can follow in a systematic fashion so that you basically avoid all the pitfalls that would trap you into that. So that's the value creation component of that. Now, there are a few ways that that can be wrapped, and I'm flexible to being able to wrap that. And that's basically taking that, packaging it up like, again, it could be coaching where it's like I walk you through it, basically getting your idea and finding that out. But that model doesn't really fit exactly how I want to do it. But maybe it's not high leverage enough because I don't want to be trading time. One to one time exchange is not for me, at least as far as like what I want out of the business. That's not what I want. So it's basically has to be something that can be done asynchronously. So on demand course, group coaching, information product. And it's basically condensing all of my experience to basically help makers and people that are able to create stuff to get results faster than they would have if they had to go through and learn all those things themselves. So that's the value component to that. Now, marketing. Um, Marketing has been a tough one because prior to now, I really did not understand difference between, say, marketing, advertising, branding, like those things all fall into, but just think of it like, how do you get people to understand what it is, where you stand, where you fit, and get them to know about you and get them to essentially like come in through the door. And so that was something that I did not really understand much. And I've been looking at what are the different approaches. So there's obviously you can do content marketing. Like this is essentially content marketing, but this is not the reason I'm doing this is more to document. I'm not using it directly as the way to get the traffic through the door. It's not like someone is going to see this and be like, hey, take my money. Like, I don't believe that. So that's not really the approach. There's a higher strategy behind this, which is being able to either take this, weave a story around it, and then I can use that for positioning. Because as fast as I do this is what's going to allow me to position this. So I've basically taken everything, ripped it apart, started it from scratch. That's the story. And if that story is compelling for some people, then that will work. And so that's that. The biggest strategy is that by doing this, I'm creating something that could then be a story that could be used in a piece of marketing. But that's the plan as far as like being able to tell my stories about things that I've been able to accomplish quickly. So like I wrote my book in a month from start to finish. 50,000 words, 1 month. And that's something that takes the ability to kind of like dissect ideas and make it happen really quickly. So that's a story I could tell in order to say, you know what, that's the kind of result that if you want to do that, I can do that for you. But that goes into the marketing. But as far as like, how do I get traffic through the door? Right now, with this particular plan, I'm going to be using paid advertising. Now, being able to figure out exactly how to do the whole paid advertising game is it's a challenge and it's a learning curve, but it's one that I'm going to take and I'm going to experiment with that to find ways to see if it'll actually like connect in such a way that the ROI, like the return on the investment works out. So it's like getting it to a point where is it possible for me to experiment at a dollar amount that is low enough so that I can then know that if I put in $1, I'll get in $1.01. That's that's my approach right now. Now, typically the way that's done is there are systems that people put in together to do that. And currently it's been essentially a combination of different things where you have a product that is high value enough, you have a sales copy that is compelling enough, and you have an ad that grabs enough attention to get enough traffic there. And then your conversion rate has to be tracked to make sure that based on the conversion, you're able to get your average sales amount to be lower than the amount you're spending per person that's purchasing. So it's just math, and you get to test at every single point. Like, given this ad, is it making enough people come through to the sales page? Given this sales page, are enough people buying? Right. So it's like if your ad is running for a while and nobody's going through to the sales page, then the ad sucks. If your ad is working and people are going to the sales page but nobody's buying, then your sales copy sucks, right? So it's this kind of thing. So I will have to tweak those things, take this value that I'm offering and wrap it up in a package that is compelling enough for people to actually want to buy it, but then I have to also put it in a get their attention with an ad that actually gets them to the copy, and the copy has to be good enough for them to actually go through and buy. Now, obviously, this is a huge experiment in the sense that I'm new to creating ads, new to writing copy, and so the part that I know is the making part of this. And so that's going to be something of a challenge, and I'm going to be sharing exactly how that goes because I don't know how it's going to go. That's why I said there's an experiment component to this, but at least that is the marketing arm of my business. As far as like what is the subsystem there, that system is from compelling ad to convincing copy to purchase, and then tracking the conversion there to make sure that the dollar amount that goes into the ad comes out on the other end. Now, hopefully my first few attempts will work, but if not, I'm going to keep making measured attempts on that approach to see how that works. If that fails, there's probably another strategy that I've heard that seems like it could work, which is something by a guy, I forget his name, Brian Harris of I think it's called like Marketing Tools. I'll give him a shout out because everything he puts out is pretty solid. But his idea, he has this idea of a partnership, taking it's kind of like a partnership approach. So basically, you find people where your product would add value to the audience, and you basically reach out and say, "Hey, like I can come and teach this to your audience," and based on that, you get exposure that way, and then you see if that's something that could convert. So those are the two approaches as far as marketings that are like running top of mind. I think that I will try my hand at the paid approach because if I can figure that piece out, then I can get to a point where it's like I know for a fact that for every $20 that goes in, $21 comes out. And then that's something that is predictable and sustainable. If that doesn't work, I will find another approach. Now, that was the marketing. The sales component is going to be completely dependent on copy. Now, there are a few ways that people sell things on the internet, but you can also sell things in person. Like you could direct people to a phone call, you can meet them up in person, you can go shake hands and network and kiss babies. But I think just based on my personal preference, it seems like I'm getting more comfortable with videos, as you can see with these. And that's great. But I think that I would like to be able to do something again. Being able to do this in an asynchronous manner is key for me. So being able to do this video right now, it had to happen now because the kids are finally asleep and I'm able to record. And that doesn't mean that, someone is not going to run up and knock on the door in any second. So being able to just write copy and see that it is compelling and convincing and use that is very appealing to me. Now, of course, if I try that and it's not working, I will tweak it and I will retry a bunch of ways. But I do know that the key is I would like the selling to happen asynchronous, meaning not in real time. So it doesn't have to be I'm here, you're here for the selling to happen, or at least for the lead generation to happen. So that's how I'm thinking about the sales component to that. So we got our value creation, we got our marketing, we got our sales. Now, value delivery. The value delivery component is fairly straightforward. I think everything that I do is either going to be done via a recorded video, a live video call, or a written something written, right? It could be an automated sequence that is written, or it could be a downloadable written, or it could be a physical material. But it's going to be in one of those forms, and being able to deliver that in a way that is successful. I think the spoken piece, if I do it live, I'll be good with that. If I do it one on one, I'll be great with that. And if I do written, I'll be great with that as well. But I do need to get an editor. Helped a lot the last time. Now, the finance component to this, I'm bootstrapping this entire experiment. And the reason I'm bootstrapping this experiment is because I'm not, I don't feel comfortable betting. Um, yeah, I don't feel comfortable betting in general on things that I cannot predict. And so, because of that discomfort with not being able to bet on things that I cannot test, like if I can't predict it, I have to be able to test it. And so, the reason that I'm funding it is because then I can control how much goes in. I have real life expenses. And so, I have to basically get to the point of predictability that I could make the case to actually like invest more in. And so that's the whole entire business plan in a nutshell. Now, the first product, if you see the jpadamsonline.com/intent, so I actually wrote that entire course to sell it as part of I was taking another Facebook ads course actually. And so I took that and I wrote that to sell it. And then I didn't sell it and I had it sitting there for a while. And then at some point, I'm like, you know what? This could help some people. So I took it, packaged it up, and gave it away for free on my site for the people that ended up there. And I think that that's something that it's nice and it was good while it was there, but the purpose of that thing was to be sold. And if you think about the level of effort that went into it, if I was consulting directly on it, to be able, then you're talking, let's see, upwards of like $200-300 worth of value at a minimum if you're just pricing it based on my hours, not on the value of what it could do for the person that's using it, but that's just like if I'm doing it based on the hours. Now if you think of it, that if you have a $100,000 idea or $1 million idea, but you're stuck on it and it's not clear or it's not really fully fleshed out so you can take action on it, then that intent framework is worth way more to you. The better your idea, the more it's worth to you. And so I kind of like, I've been thinking about that for a while and thinking about pricing and everything else. And I'm looking at it like, as I start to test, I'll probably roll it out at about $47. And then I'll probably try to bump that price to $97 and see basically what happens to the conversion rates, right? It's either going to tank or it's going to flop. Now, I've thought about going higher, but the reason I don't want to go higher on it is because I feel like once someone finishes that intent framework, you get very clear on your idea, which means after that, you need to start executing. And so, in order to really like get a lot of people like clarity on the idea phase, it then sets up for the next stage of my business if all these experiments that I'm doing right now works, which means you get clarity on your idea and you're set. Now, if you're ready to start executing on it, then that's really where I offer more value. Just getting you clear on your idea is not all that valuable because I thrive in the turning ideas into things. So the first phase is, all right, cool. Let's get you clear on what your idea is. Then I need to put something together that allows people to, like machine, like clockwork, turn their ideas into businesses or projects that they love. So that's kind of like where I'm sitting at. And that's the entire plan. And anybody can take that and do that for anything that they care about. Now, your product might change, the value that you're bringing might change, the way you package it might change, and the way you get traffic might change. But that's the entire plan in a nutshell. Now, the predictability of this is that it hinges on a few tests working. Now, those tests could all fail. Um, but I'm hoping they won't. And but the thing is, if those tests work, then I can take that and actually put it into, like, you get to take that learning and apply it to other things. Because I think, like, it's, if you look at my SaaS product, Your Pack, it's a it basically allows you to create a virtual online community where your people can connect. So course creators, authors, YouTubers, people with Facebook communities, you can allow your people to connect the way that they want. The thing is, I have not figured out how to market on that because I really didn't have advertising figured out, and I really had not had a full plan around that product. I had a product, but I did not have a business plan around that product. Right. The same thing with my other product, Spruce Metrics. It allows you to track. Actually, it allows you to track, what, how much traffic is coming into your site, how many of those are converting and getting onto your mailing list, and then how many of those are selling. Again, a product with no clear traffic strategy to get in there and actually convert into sales. So once this, if this experiment works on, like, just being able to do it in the intent framework, then I can take that, I can apply it to that, I can apply it to others, I can apply it to other partnerships that I'm working with right now. And then it really becomes the value of being able to do it for something that's, $47 or $97 as an experiment, becomes not that that thing works, but in that if that thing works, you can apply it to everything else. And so that's kind of it. And I think that, someone asked me this weekend, and they were asking me, like, why are you doing this? And I thought about it, and, like, it's a legacy, and it's to not allow people to suffer. Like, anytime I suffer with something, I don't want somebody else to suffer through that same thing. And I believe that, like, at the bottom of my heart, that is my motivation. Like, that is what compels me to do this. But why me? Why am I the person to do this? And why am I using my own information as opposed to just coming in and, like, just sharing books or whatever? The reason is because, like, I know this stuff. I know this stuff well. And it's funny because I think that people tend to miss that when you think about the coach, and you think that the coach, you know, like, you look at Usain Bolt's coach and he's like a fat guy. It's kind of, no offense to the guy. I mean, I have no, I'm not judging, but he's a heavy set guy, and he trained the fastest athlete in the world. And I think there is a lot of things, like, when you're getting started, people think that, well, you know what, if you are doing that, and I don't know, it seems to only apply around business, then you should be able to do it for your own business, which is why I'm kind of like taking all this stuff, going through from scratch and doing it, because I do know this stuff, and I know this stuff very well. Not only don't I want people to suffer, but I also, like, this is based on, like, proven knowledge acquired over time and tested over time. And so my first business was like 20 years ago, and that business got to a point where it was making about $12,000 a week. Ultimately, it ended up failing for personal reasons, like interpersonal reasons. The partners couldn't get along, that kind of thing. But I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I've had a chance to play at very big stages. And I think it's like, it needs to be said, because, I tried to be, I find that the people that are actually, like, truly humble don't sound humble. Like, the most arrogant people master the ability to sound humble. I don't sound humble. If I say what I've done, it's going to come out like, yeah, I did that. But it's not to brag or anything like that. It's just that every once in a while, I do kind of, like, carry myself, like, very, like, I'm experimenting, I'm figuring it out, because I'm always learning. there's always something else to learn. There's always something else to know. I'm always a student at something. But there are components of this stuff that I know very well and I've mastered. So I think it would be a disservice for me not to share that as well with people, to let people know that it's not just like, oh, I'm figuring out all of this. It's like, no, I understand the systems of business. I understand process and procedure and execution. What I did not have in my belt is I have not put every component piece of this together, rolled it out all at once in one sitting. And so that's what I'm doing now, and that's why I'm documenting this. Well, thank you for checking in on this. This is again, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm JP from jpadamsonline.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Subscribe or like the page if you want to see these when they come on. And this has been Starting 101. This is episode 11, and we've basically covered the business plan. As we roll forward, I'll start to share more and more of what I'm actually doing with experiments and the successes and failures that I'm getting, but I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys tomorrow.